to Wednesday. It's February the 1st, 2023, and it's time for the Education Town Hall here on We Act Radio. I am so pleased today to do this special show. It's entitled The Education Town Hall Presents We Love You Madly, the Past, Present, and Future of Duke Ellington School of Arts. And when I say we, I didn't write that. That comes from the Duke Ellington folks. So I wanted to highlight what's going on in Duke Ellington currently. And so that's why we're doing this. We have a mixture of students, faculty, alumni, as well as community members that are joining us today. We have student Mickey Melgetta and Jamila Henry that I want to start out with, and then we're going to work the adults into the conversation. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Everybody okay with that?
That's great.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So, to the students, and Mickey, you can start us off if you like. So, tell me what is actually going on with Duke Ellington School of Arts. What is the situation here? I've heard all kinds of stuff. So I want you to frame it from a student's perspective.
Well, this is larger than just a student perspective. The issue is sort of systemic, and it seems to be chronic with DCPS. But from the student perspective that I can speak to, one of the biggest issues that we were having recently is that, as you may have heard or seen on some of the news, well, we were going through negotiations, or our school was going through negotiations with DCPS, which we often do on MOA, our Memorandum of Agreement, and they weren't really staying to what we had already agreed upon. And one of the issues that we felt were one of our biggest concerns with students was them talking about our arts curriculum and taking that away from us, right? That was one of the biggest issues we saw for us as students, because our arts curriculum is the entire reason we go to this school. You know, what separates the school from every other high school in DC isn't just the passion that our students have. It isn't just the amazing things that we get to learn in our classes, but it's very specifically the autonomy and the control that we have over our own things and what we do with what we have. So the biggest issue outside of that arts curriculum for us was also the lack of autonomy, because that it's like a domino effect. It affects everything else under it. So.
Okay, and so let me back up. For those who aren't familiar with DC public schools and DC in general, Duke Ellington is an application school of arts, and you have to, if I'm correct, you have to do auditions and other hurdles that you have to clear to enter the school. And so it's been around for about 12 years now, I believe, and it's done for, in my opinion. No. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going on 50 years.
50 years. I'm sorry. Where did I get 12 from? I saw 12 somewhere. I'm sorry. 50 years, and it's done a great job. And so, Jamila, what is your take on this?
Hi, my name is Jamelia, and basically Mickey explained it like very well. From a student perspective, we were just worried about, keeping our arts the way that best benefits us, because there's honestly nothing wrong with how our school is being ran at the moment. We're on a pre-professional track. As soon as we graduate, we can go straight into work, and that's just something about us that a lot of other schools don't have. And we just want to make sure that we can keep it the way it is without any outside changes.
Okay, so you, as well as Mickey, you as students, from what I'm hearing is that you want to maintain autonomy as well as what you went there for in the first place, which is the arts aspect of the school. Is that what I'm hearing from you both? And so, yeah. Are you saying to me that DCPS are trying to take those things away? And if so, how? What makes you think that? Why do you feel that way?
Well, the reason that we feel that way is because they have constantly done this. This isn't their first attack on us. We've dealt with these sort of attacks for a series of years. And
attack, that's a strong word. Why do you say attack?
Well, I say attack because it's kind of obvious when you look at the way that they've been treating us and the way that they've consistently attacked only us. There's a difference between an attack and reformation. And the way that they're coming at us, they frame it as if it's reformation, but in reality, there is nothing reforming about it. We function strongly as we already are. We're working as we are. Everything is good. So if you're coming into our space and you're trying to affect that, then I can't see that as anything other than an attack.
Okay, great, good. All right, I wanna bring in this is for any of the parents that are on. I'm sorry, Miss Aaliyah, class of '91. You're an alumna.
Yes, I'm an
Okay,
alumna.
so we have
Mhm.
okay, very good. You came on a little late. I didn't tell you to change your name, but anyway, um, and I hope everyone doesn't mind if I call you by your first name. And so, Nicole, you're a parent, so I want to hear from your perspective as a parent, um, what the issues are and how you feel about what's going on.
Okay, thank you for letting me sit on this platform. My name is Nicole Greenfield. My daughter, Michaela Greenfield, is a senior at Duke Ellington. She's a visual arts major. The issue that arose, I initially found out during her ninth grade year that the city was trying to take the bus stops away from the schools because they
Go
had
ahead.
an issue with the student population at Duke Ellington, which is predominantly black, and it hosts probably more than 75% from students from Ward 7 and 8.
Are you
I'm a
referring?
native Washingtonian.
Are you referring to Metro bus stops?
Oh, yes, sir, I am. So that was
Okay.
one of that's when I first heard about the issues that Duke Ellington was having.
Why would they
And
want?
then,
Why would they want to take away bus stops?
well, that's how our kids get to the school. So if they take away the transportation, they can't get there.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you.
Okay.
And just since you raised that
Mm-hmm.
point about attendance, so and I do have a note here. You've been in business for nearly 50 years, and so I'm looking at a breakdown of the students that attend, and
Mm-hmm.
57% live in wards 5 through 8.
Yep.
There are 4% in Ward 2. Ward 1 has 8%. Ward 3 has 10%. Ward 4 has 12%. Ward 5, 18%. Ward 6, 9%. Ward 7, 18%. And Ward 8, 12%. And then there are 9% of non-residents. We'll get into that later. But I just wanted, since you mentioned the breakdown, go ahead and continue your thought.
Yes. So that was my first introduction into the issues that Duke was having with the city. Then come forward this year, we started with the negotiations of the contract, and we were informed that we didn't know, the parents didn't know that the arts program funding had been cut. So that was an issue because this is the whole reason for these kids coming to the school because they are artists. So why would you take away the arts budget?
So
So I had an issue with that.
let me interject. It's my understanding, and I talk to people. I'm a native Washingtonian. Like I said, I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing the show since 2012, and I've been a staunch education advocate. People always ask why I do this. Uh, I have no children, but I believe they're all our children, so I fight hard for every student.
Yes.
So my question is, I heard that DCPS was offering an allocation this year of 12.2, I believe, or 12.7 million, and you're saying that's inadequate to maintain the arts aspect of Duke Ellington?
So that's not what we were informed. We were informed that the arts budget was cut. I don't know what that budget include, but the art budget at Duke Ellington, that has not been confirmed that they are going to fund that.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Miss, do we have a faculty member that I see him sitting back there? We don't, and we're going to get to everyone else. We have a faculty member. I want to get a faculty perspective. But while we're waiting on the faculty member to step up,
You're right here.
let's
You
go
know,
to Mr. Hill, who's an alum. Let me hear your thoughts on what the situation, how you feel what you believe the situation to be, and what you want to see happen.
Well, I would first let me say how proud I am to see the current students stepping up and speaking so eloquently to the issues that we are facing. This is not something that has happened overnight. I am of the class of '88, and we've had this issue since I was at Ellington. Um, the issues of, first of all, let's make one thing clear. Ellington has never been fully funded in its 49 years. It's never been fully funded.
So when you say never fully funded, what you give me specifics? What should that give? You gotta make it clear. When you say not
Let,
fully funded, what does that mean?
well, let's talk about the aspect of the teachers' salaries. The teachers pay, they're being paid substantially uh, less than regular DC public school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Two, when we're talking about funding, Ellington gets part of its funding from outside of DCPS as well. And the issues of not being fully funded, when we're talking about, let's just look at the issue with the building aspect, the renovations. We from my understanding, we were told it was going to cost $75 million to renovate the building. As we're speaking, it's somewhere around $186 million. So the question is, if those people that were so eager and willing to say yes, yes, yes to more and more money going into the renovations, why is it that now, when we're talking about having the school fully funded, folk are now starting to penny pinch? And Ellington has been at the forefront of any area. When you're talking about in the arts field, we are at the top, and so you would think that Ellington would put that DCPS would put its best foot forward concerning Ellington, as they would with any other high school that is quote unquote at the top of the Ellington, I mean the DCPS uh,
So
you know,
Michael,
Can I,
yes.
you made a point, and I'm going to put a pin in it because I want to come back. I want to save that for later because I have a very important question to ask you all. But I want to go as I ask you a faculty member. I want to hear the faculty members' perception of what's going on, or because Michael, you raised the point that they're not being compensated like your DCPS counterparts in terms of salary and benefits. So I want to hear the perspective of the faculty member. So, who introduce yourself and please tell us what you teach at Duke Ellington. Anyone?
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm Gabrielle DeVos, class of 1979, and have the pleasure of being back here teaching going on 10 years. And so, what I understand about our current situation is that it's nothing new in terms of this school not being fully represented, respected, funded in terms of DCPS dollars, right? And so I think just to maybe add a little bit of context to this, perhaps, and then Ken Johnson can jump in because he works on the art side. I teach English here, although I was a dance major when I was here. I'm all about actually integrating academics and arts together. And so from the school's beginning, as I understand it, from the history of the school, it was meant to be what it is, which is a professional arts environment. So just hang out there for a second, just to understand that to bring a professional arts experience into a high school automatically means it's going to cost more. We can look at it further and break down the numbers and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. But the original vision of Mike Malone and Peggy Cooper Capers was to have professional artists and arts experiences come into the DC region or area. So it wasn't meant to be like a quote unquote regular high school that has arts classes. It's different. And so it's going to cost more. So why the friction continues to exist between DCPS and Duke Ellington, that's a hefty question that we really can't tackle that in this one radio show. But that's at the core of who Ellington is. And so it's going to cost more. Why that continues to be a challenge when this school is actually on track and doing what its founders intended, with a 99% graduation rate and students going right into college or right into working professionally in the arts. we are continuing to meet the mission almost 50 years later. So we want to ask that question to DCPS and others. Why does it continue to be a challenge? Because the school is healthy and it is progressing and it is producing.
So let me say this. As I mentioned at the top, I'm a DC native. I'm a 1973 class of 1973 graduate of Louisiana High School. And what we heard back then, and I've heard over the years, that Duke Ellington was a top-notch school. It was funded way at levels way higher than the other schools, and I understand why because of the elements involved. But that's why this is. I wanted to do this show because I was not aware that uh, the funding has never been what it should have been, and so that's why I wanted to now bring in. Oh, I'm sorry, the other faculty member. I'm sorry, you wanted to
Hi.
opine on this.
I good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to add this piece. Ellington is a dual curriculum school. Students have a longer school day, and and the model of the school requires two faculties. You have an arts faculty and you have an academic faculty. And right there lies the conundrum that we've struggled with for many years here is that the DCPS funding model does not recognize that we're a dual curriculum institution. Now, people may ask, well, how have you survived this long? Well, we've survived that long because faculty has taken significant pay cuts over a long period of time. And that model has produced some incredible students, but it has been an incredible burden on the faculty and staff. Now, that's at the core of our financial challenge.
That is very succinct. I'm glad that you shared that insight. That's very important. I want to hear from another parent, Mr. Munter. Would you share your thoughts, your views on the situation?
Well, I'm a parent of a senior, and you've heard that students love going to Ellington. You've heard that the faculty loves it so much that they do sacrifice quite a bit, and we're very grateful to them in order to be able to teach there. Another group that loves Ellington, and you're focused on this if you're a parent of the senior, is colleges, who last year gave $7 million in scholarship money to Ellington graduates. And it does seem a little ridiculous that DCPS wants to take over control of the school when everybody else recognizes it as a successful academic.
So I want you to define what control means. I want you to define to me what control means.
Well, right now the arts program is run by an organization called the DSAP board, which also appoints the principal of the school. And that's been a major bone of contention between DCPS and the DSAP board historically. And there are two proposals now before City Council, one from Duke Ellington School and one from DCPS.
I have those two proposals. I haven't had a chance to read them both, but I've got some highlights on them.
Yeah, and basically what DCPS has wanted to do is to change the structure and impose its structure on how the arts curriculum would be managed and run and who would be in charge of it. And that's really what the students were talking about before.
Right.
In addition to obviously the money is, at some point, teachers are willing to sacrifice, but you can't really blame them if they can go to another school and make 25-30% more money to teach. I mean, at some point the funding has to equal out for the teachers in order to preserve the faculty, which is an unbelievable faculty. I mean, you just cannot believe the talent kids get to be taught by as artists.
Okay, so let me now bring in a community member, none other than Reverend George Gilbert. I want to hear the community aspect or perspective on the situation.
Thank you. for hosting us today and dealing with this issue of our children. We look at that we stand on the side of the people. We stand on the side of our children, and it's really crazy that we're having a conversation about budget cuts during a time when our children are in the situations that we are in. Our city needs to put more money in prevention and not policing. More money in prevention instead of prisons. And Duke Ellington is a viable place, a viable part of our community. When we look at just the statistics of their graduation rate, the statistics of their test scores, the statistics of how many uh, Duke Ellington children or youth end up in jail or in prison or um, or end up in jobs and careers. Instead of us talking about budget cuts, we need to be talking about how do we duplicate a Duke Ellington Part Two. So on the other side of the city, um, it's amazing to me that we're having this conversation. We really need to be talking about creating a Dave Chappelle Duke Ellington Part Two.
Hmm. Okay, I appreciate that. Now I want to go back to the young people, because I know they have to get ready to go, and I don't want to keep you too long. I'm already a little bit over your time, so I want you to share with me, Mickey. You can start off, and then Jamila, you go next. Tell me what precisely you want to see happen. What you put on your chancellor hat? What would you do if you were chancellor?
Well, above all else, no matter what happens, the maintenance and the existence of the school is important to us, and making sure this school is alive no matter what happens is what we want. The principal of our school, Miss Logan, whenever we talk to her about this, she always mentions how she doesn't care if we have to go back because our school started in a church basement, if you didn't know, and we worked our way up to having the wonderful building that we have
Mm-hmm.
now. But if we had to go back to a church basement, we wouldn't mind because at the end of the day, we love our arts, we love everything we have, we love this is what we do,
Mm-hmm.
but we also don't really want that to happen. We really like being here, we like our teachers, we like everything as it functions. So if there's nothing wrong with this, then I think there's nothing that we need to change. Allowing Ellington to exist as it already is, and if anything, improving it. When the president of France's wife came here and I got to speak to her, she was adamant about talking about making a sister school of Ellington in France. So not even we don't even have to talk about thinking small and building another one across the river. Uh, there's actual real world implications of what we're doing here and how important this is. So if I was the chancellor, I would keep this place and make it even better. This is already working perfectly fine.
Oh, that was a good advertisement, promo. So Jamila, what are your thoughts? Put on your chancellor's hat.
Um, I would say the same thing as Mickey. Just not trying to fix something that's not broken. I feel like there are other issues in the community that should be like have more attention than the autonomy of our school because it's running fine. Um, yeah, basically, and then, just the competitiveness of our school, the fact that it's a professional, like pre-professional course. It's not for everyone, but for those that it's like here for and those that cherish it, it needs to stay that way so that they can get the most out of what they're attending the school for.
I appreciate you both being here with us, and I'm going to let you go because I don't want to be the one responsible for you being late going to class. Okay, you
You
can't
already are.
you already need to be late. Okay, you're not going to be able to use that one today. I want to say this. I think you're two fine, wonderful students, and I wish you all the best because I think your trajectory is going to be as high as you can want it to be, and so keep on doing good work. Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
All right. Yeah. We'll
Can
talk.
I also add?
I'm sorry.
Can I also add that
Sure.
this is not a new playbook. This is the same playbook that this government has used throughout the history of our city. Whenever Black power absorbed it, um, we had that with the control board coming in our city to take over because they did not like the direction that our city was going in with black folks getting 90% of the contracts in the city. And so now we have black children who are excelling, and they believe that a control needs to be taken over.
So let me. I got to unpack that, and I have to take a break at the bottom of the hour in about 5 minutes. But I have to unpack that. So you're saying this is an issue because the folks that attend the school are black, and they're
What
being put upon because of that. And let me
what
finish. Let me finish. When we have a black man, predominantly black council, this is it's not completely chocolate city, but it's not completely vanilla city either. So how can that be?
what I am saying is that systematically, when we look at um, our police force, when we look at our government, when we look at just the way that we do things in our city, we see gentrification. When we see that Duke Ellington is in a predominantly white community that is serving black children, that we cannot just be blinded that race is a part of this conversation.
Okay. I'll go ahead. I see everybody had their hands up. I see Michael had his hands up, and Mickey, you're supposed to be going to class, and then I see.
Yeah, we had one last thing to add.
Okay, well, let me get Mickey in here because I want him. I need y'all to go back to class. Go ahead, Mickey.
We're headed back. I just wanted to include that we're also having a protest on February 13th, and that everybody should please show up if you can. Just wanted to plug that in before we leave. Also, I think the Reverend is very right about that. We are a school that serves a majority LGBTQ student population, a majority Black student population, majority low income student population. There's a lot more factors outside of just race, but race specifically is also a huge factor of this. There is no other art school in the city, not only in the city, but in the country that services the arts education of Black folks like we do. And that is unparalleled. So anything, any form of changing that or any form of touching that or trying to alter it is an attack on the sustainability of Black people and Black art in America. So.
Okay, I see Michael. Michael has his hands up.
I just wanted to say this: the argument that you made, I've heard that argument being made before by my Republican brothers and sisters who say, "Well, how can you claim racism exists in America when we had a Black president?" Okay,
that's apples and oranges. I'm not even gonna.
No. I'm
That's
speaking
apples and oranges.
Okay, well, I'm speaking to the fact that although we do have a Black mayor, although those factors are there, racism is a factor and has been a factor in it from the beginning, and even when the renovations.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Perpetrated by who? Who's perpetrating racism?
The community. I'll tell you this. Brief history.
Duke Ellington.
Brief history about the renovations. When the school was being renovated, there's a part of the school, the upper platform of the school was to be open space. The residents didn't want it, and here's the exact reason that was given: because they do not want the students there to play go-go at the top of the building. Why specify go-go? Why is Ellington only specified as to one genre? And what's wrong with go-go? And so, this is something that has been in existence since I was a student there. I understand that it was in existence before I got there. And my great grandparents lived in Georgetown when Georgetown was predominantly Black. And this is what happened to my family. They were told to leave, and basically they just what do they call it? Said that they condemned all the housing, and then when the people moved out, they just simply took the stickers off and sold them. So this is an issue that has been pervasive since the beginning of Georgetown. So.
So, Aaliyah, I'm going to let you in. We reached the bottom of the hour. This is shaping up to be a very good conversation, and I'm glad you all are here with us. I am so glad that we have people tuned in, listening to this as well. We're thankful for those who are listening live, as well as those who will listen to the replay. And I want to identify us as being the Education Town Hall here on We Act Radio, Southeast Washington, D.C., down the street from the big chair. And so
Absolutely.
we have the honor and pleasure and privilege of having special show today. I call it the Education Town Hall presents "We Love You Madly," the past, present, and future of Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and we have many folks representing students, parents, as well as faculty and alumni and community members as well. And so I won't take the time to go through everybody's name because I want to spend that time really digging into some of the issues. So let's go back to the teachers now. It's my understanding, based on the numbers that I've received, that the projected enrollment this year in 23 is 581. It could go as high as 600. And so it's my understanding that you all feel that $15 million is what should be allocated for Duke Ellington. Are those things correct?
That's accurate. Yes, it is.
Okay, so we got agreement on something. So like I said, I mentioned earlier, it's my understanding that DCPS was offering 12.7, I believe. Is that correct?
I don't think any of us have a command of what the numbers were in the negotiation. We weren't a part of that, so we can't speak to that exactly.
And I'll tell you where I got the number from. I got it from my subject matter expert who extracted it out of the actual proposal. So, and that's why I asked. I wanted to get down to the understanding where you guys are in terms of agreement with DCPS on the numbers. So we can come back to that. I know Leah wanted to get in there, and I said I will get to you as soon as I came back. So Leah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to add this clarity to the budget conversation. What I do know as a faculty member is we don't know what our budget is from year to year. It changes. It could be $9 million one year. It could be 11 the next year.
So you're subjected to the uniform per pupil funding formula just like everyone else, correct?
We are.
And so just like Ballou, because I've been I'm the president emeritus of the Ballou Alumni Association. I'm the former PTSA president at Ballou, and so just like any other school, that is kind of a murky situation because we don't know for 1 year what our budget. Or no school knows for 1 year, and I get the angst, and I get the being upset about that. It should not be that way, and I'm one who wants to change how we do budgets in DCPS. And so I agree with you on that point. So Ali, I'm sorry, I keep going away. I'm trying to get back to you.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Atia, class of 91.
Oh, I'm sorry, Atia.
No, it's okay. Thank you. And I wanted to go back to the conversation that Reverend Gilbert started and also the commentary that Michael shared as well. I, too, am a native Washingtonian. My father actually grew up in Georgetown. So I had my very first real experience with gentrification, with my family history, meaning that my father grew up there, family grew up there. And so I know in a very real way what it means to be removed from that community. And so we can pretend like we don't know, but it's very clear. When we were at Ellington, my class, we called it the Big White House. And it was the White House full of Black children. And so the mere fact that you have about 48% of the students attending Duke Ellington coming from our most distressed wards 5, 7, and 8, who are stellar students with a stellar reputation, tells us that there's something else to play here. And so I currently serve as an assistant principal in a high needs middle school. So I know firsthand the impact of a fully funded, comprehensive arts program. We know that art saves lives. Art saved my life, it saved Hill's life, and it saves children's lives that are there because it really does ground us in a way that you can't get grounded when you have a traditional educational program that you're moving through. And as so many have already said before me, Duke Ellington should be replicated because our data speaks for itself. So I'm so unclear as to all of us as to why we're even here having this conversation. when at the same time we're having conversations around the gun violence increasing, right? The murder rate increasing. Well, we have children coming from those same communities that are excelling, that are moving forward, they're going to college, they're graduating from college. We have this huge workforce development, college readiness push right now in our city because we are trying to build that intrinsic motivation for our students. We don't have to push hard at Ellington because it's a
Okay.
very organic way. And so I am very frustrated as an educator, as a mother, as a native Washingtonian, that we are still having this conversation in 2023 that we had in 1991 around
So
saving our school.
so let me ask this question, because I'm hearing it kind of threading through, trending through this discussion. So when prior to Duke Ellington being in that building, which before it was a comprehensive high school, Western,
Absolutely.
were there racial tensions there at that point? Did they want to chase Western out?
Western was low enrollment was the issue, um, and that's how Peggy and Mike ended up getting the building to
So, but I'm
begin with.
asking, were there racial? They want you guys out. Did they want those guys out as well? Those folks out
Well,
of?
can I tell you? I knew Ted Kennedy, and I'll tell you what Ted Kennedy said. Ted Kennedy said when he moved into Georgetown, he was given a form, and that form stated that as a homeowner, that he agreed that he would not sell to, rent to, lease to any African Americans. That says it in a nutshell.
Yeah, but that didn't exist just there. I mean, and I'm trying, since the racial aspect was brought up. I wanted to try to go back. You said it's existed since Duke Ellington has been there. So I wanted to know if it predated Duke Ellington and did it impact Western. That's what I was asking. I mean, we don't have to
Oh,
go that far back and stay there. I
So,
want to get I
Mr.
want to get
Bird,
yes. Go ahead.
if I could interject for just a quick second. I'm doing some research at the Sumner School Museum on the history of Duke Ellington, and the conversations and the work that Mike Malone and Peggy Cooper Capers had at that particular time, 69, early 70s. And so what this kind of speaks to what your question was, your comment was a couple of minutes ago with regards to what was the community support with regards to Western. And so what I read yesterday was from 1975. It was the principal at Eaton Elementary School at the time. I assume it was a white woman. And her comments were directed to DCPS and directed to the regional or region two person superintendent who was over this particular area at that time. And her question in her letter continues to center around what's another space for this school to exist? Why does Western, the school, have to be considered for this art school? We just had this fantastic renovation of the science department. What happens to the kids in this community if this arts school is here? And so we can only, because we know what true history is in terms of people of color in DC, as Atia has spoken to and as Reverend Gilbert has spoken to as well. And so even though Western itself may have had its challenges before it became Western School of the Arts and eventually Duke Ellington School of the Arts, we cannot ignore the fact that it is the students in wards 5, 7, and 8. It is students of color, regardless of what ward they come from, who flock to this school. And so I'll utter the point and echo the point again. We're still having the same conversation that was had in the 70s. I just read through several documents, including one letter from Mike Malone yesterday from 1975, where he said in the letter, in response to someone in the community, no, we're not going to consider another location for the school because this is the agreed upon school. So the pushback has always been, and unfortunately, it still exists today.
So I'm going to get Scott Waldman in because he has been patient, and I want to hear his views. He's a parent, and so I want to hear your views. You've been sitting patiently. What are your thoughts?
Privilege just to be in this conversation. From the parent perspective, one example of what the lack of funding and lack.
You're breaking up. You're going in and out. Scott, we can't hear you. You having mic issues? Uh-oh. Are you still there with us?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
yes.
now.
Okay, sorry about that. That was my AirPods. I'm in the Capitol building, which has very thick walls. But I just want to say quickly, give an example of the cost of what happens when the teachers aren't fully funded at the level they should be, when they aren't compensated at the level they should be. My daughter and three of her classmates in the camp program, the cinematic arts and media production program, they just had a film that is now a finalist in the DC International Film Festival. Yet there's about a dozen finalists from around the world. There's at least two entries from Korea, for example. And the film was actually on gentrification on Kennedy Street, an important film. They just screened it for students, and it really got a lot of reaction and parents. And we lost our teacher just a few weeks ago, who ended up taking a job with the Postal Service. Understandably, DC rents are not getting any cheaper. The rents are going up, and the teacher pay is not really going up to match that. So here's this program named after the cinematic arts, and I know we're getting somebody new, but we just lost a teacher who was very talented, had a background in film and a degree in it. And you have this one example of student success, and there's plenty of others, and we lost him. And just stepping out back for a minute, I'm not from DC. I'm from Baltimore originally, which has its own art school that isn't in danger. That constantly, it's where Tupac Shakur graduated from. It's where Jada Pinkett Smith graduated from. It has its own esteemed history, and it doesn't have to fight for its life in a city that is even more financially strapped than DC is. This school is what makes DC, that puts it on the international stage in a way. The whole city, New York City has LaGuardia, and we have this school. I mean, it's just unbelievable that this example of success, which it has a nearly 100% graduation rate, it's unequivocal that it's a success, and it has 5 decades of history to rely on, that it has to fight for its life. But LaGuardia in New York doesn't have, the Fame School doesn't have to fight for its life. The school in Baltimore, the Baltimore School of the Arts, doesn't have to fight for its life. And here, this is again happening for the thinnest of reasons, a sexual harassment scandal that goes back years, that has nothing to do with the current administration. Seems like a poor excuse for the district to come in and impose a bureaucracy. We're already losing teachers, and we're going to lose more under this system. So I don't even understand, like a lot of parents and a lot of the amazing and talented faculty we have, why
So,
we're constantly in this position.
so let me ask you to put a pin in it for right there, right there. So let's go. Let's look system wide now, because we're about 3/4 of the way through the show. Let's look system wide with regard to the annual budget for the school system. That includes charter as well as DPS and all application schools and etc. There's a pie, and so that pie is divvied up. And so you're saying, because every school is fighting for it, like I said, Baloo, all the other high schools are fighting for dollars. So what I'm hearing you all say is, because we're better than the rest of them, we should get more of the money. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, we're saying that our data reflects that our students, and we're not, let's be clear, we're not saying we're better. This is not about being elitist, but we're saying follow the data, because everything is based on data, right? Especially when you're talking about the school level. Everything is based on attendance. Everything is based on standardized test scores, your behavior data. So we're saying that the data for Duke Ellington warrants the funding that we are requesting. And so if Blue can produce the same data, peace and love. If Anacostia can produce the same data, peace and love. But we're saying that 48% of our children come from our most vulnerable communities, and our children are outscoring majority of the students in the city. So what is the problem? Because at the end of the day, what's the end result? We want to cultivate students who are prepared to compete on any level in society, right? And so if we are doing that, why are we still here having this
Okay.
conversation?
All right.
So we're
I
not
see
saying
what
that we're elitists,
I,
because
I see what I see
yes,
what
but we're
the
saying that
faculty.
we have the data to back up what we're talking about.
Okay, so let me ask you to be more succinct from going forward, because we're running out of time. So, um, I see one of the faculty members has his hand up. Go ahead, proceed.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Dana Nearing. I'm actually the registrar and also the advisor for the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, which is a community built to support the queer students here. But I just want to piggyback on Atia's note, because I am the registrar, so I do deal with our data on a day-to-day. I want to confirm that when you're talking about the piece of the pie, sure, you can perhaps call it we're asking for more because we're doing more with less in a lot of cases. But I will also add that we are outscoring when we don't even have a GPA requirement to get into this school. So we are meeting students wherever they are and bringing them up to the level they need to be productive when they leave here. And in addition, when they leave, they don't have just one route, they have at least two to choose from. So we're giving students an opportunity to go. You want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, you want to do whatever your family business is, you choose. But also, if you want to be an artist, we're going to give you that out to be a productive citizen of this nation or of the world, and also share your message through your art. We're like changing people's lives here and giving them another opportunity to just be successful. And in fact, many of us are following our hearts, which feeds us a lot more than you could ever really explain. And I'm a prime example of that.
So
Yes.
let me just let me while I have the staff people. So it's my understanding also that the staff at Duke Ellington wants to be licensed and receive the same salaries and benefits as all DCPS students. I mean, as all DCPS staff members. Is that correct?
That's a 100% correct.
Okay. Also, it's my understanding that um, DCPS wants to place a compliance person on your staff, and you guys want that person to work for the principal. Is that correct?
So let me just jump in with one comment I would add, which is one thing that I would like as a teacher is to understand more fully what the issues are that DCPS has with Duke Ellington, in order for them to want to put a compliance officer here. Like, show me in writing, and I think that I'm do that because I've been here going on a decade now. Forget about the fact that I'm an alumni, because what it seems like with DCPS wanting to make that move is that for the 10 years I've been here, I've been wasting my time. Like, I haven't been in compliance. Like, I've been working for an institution that hasn't been in compliance. I don't understand that. I'm confused. And so because I teach students to write with solid evidence, I would ask DCPS to show me the evidence of the reason or the need to have a compliance officer here. So show me that. So I ask I have to DCPS is to make conversations transparent, where this community that's here today can also be a part of understanding where DCPS is coming from with solid evidence.
And can I add to that, Mr. Bird? Because then again, and that person doesn't come for free. So that's another salary, right? That
Six
you're going
figures.
to add to the budget for Duke Ellington. And also, I would like to know, do other schools have a compliance officer? And what's the criteria? What rubric are you using to determine whether or not a school needs a compliance officer? Because we already said what our data show. And so if our data show that we are meeting the mark and other schools are not, and they don't have a compliance officer, something just is not adding up for us. And
And
so
I will, the data point, actually, as registrar, once again, I've spent the last 4.5 years making sure that residency fraud was an issue. And we were falsely accused of that on a grand scale 5 years ago. Before my time, I made sure when I've come in that we cleared our corrective action plan, and we just passed our fifth audit of the corrective action plan, and we expect to be taken out of that completely. So even holding us to past allegations of residency fraud are now, not valid. It's a moot point. So I also question, from my perspective, what will this compliance manager be doing?
So let me. I'm gonna get you, Michael. I'm gonna ask this question as well, because I'm just going by what I hear, and that's why I'm confirming. That's why I want to go straight to you folks, so I can hear from you. I heard that kind of embedded in your proposal was that if we can't get what we want, that we might consider going charter. Is that something that's been percolating up around Duke Ellington?
We've heard about that multiple times, and I will say this: there are no compliance officers over charter schools,
right?
And they do receive public dollars, and they are funded by per pupil funding formulas.
Yep.
And one thing I also wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Nearing said was my daughter was actually accepted into Banneker. She could have been a Banneker student. She asked me to please unenroll her in Banneker because she knew for a fact that Duke Ellington wanted to accept her. And that is why she's a senior at Duke Ellington right now in the dance department. And it's funny that Scott would say that he's in the Capitol because my daughter aspires to be a bureaucrat. That is exactly what she desires to do. She possibly wants to become the first African American woman legislative council of the House of Representatives. And she has the foundation to do that. A lot of Ivy League schools, as well as some HBCUs, have even accepted my daughter into college because of her GPA, and also her extracurriculars. She's been prepared to do that with it, and we're not focusing on the fact that yes, Duke Ellington is art school, but it's literally dual enrollment, meaning it's academic and arts.
Yes.
Okay, so let me jump. I don't really want to get in, Michael. Anybody. This is kind of open forum now. So I wanted to make sure I got in this question. Again, I go back to that pie, and there's so many slices you can get out of the pie. So if Duke Ellington receives the funding that you guys think it should be funded at, doesn't that take away from other schools? Won't they suffer when you be putting them at a more of a disadvantage?
No.
Here's the thing about that, okay? Duke Ellington as an opportunity is available to any student with artistic talent in DC. So you have to decide, are you going to actually provide? And it's a mirage to think that you can provide a program.
You're breaking up. You must have.
In order to fund a dual curriculum pre-professional program, it takes more money, or you're not going to have that opportunity.
I think we all agree. I think everyone agrees with that. But I'm just saying, if there's a finite number,
what you're saying is that to stick to that per pupil program for Duke Ellington means the entire opportunity is not available to any student in DC. It's not the same type of school.
Yeah,
and that's what people can't get in their heads about it.
Let me strip away the per pupil funding formula and just say again, there's a total allocation for education in the city. And if you were giving more, and I'm gonna let Michael because he's been chomping at the bit. If you're giving more, that means somebody has to take less, and wouldn't that put them at a disadvantage? Go ahead, Michael.
No, 2 points I want to make. One is we're going according to a piece of a pie. There are several pies. I remember when DC when there was a shutdown, the city was being run by the proceeds from speed cameras alone. And so that's a piece of a pie that is a gigantic pie. Second thing that I wanted to say is this. I understand exactly why they want to take over Ellington. Who wants to take over a problem? Nobody. Does DCPS have a lot of problems of their own in the high school realm? Yes, they do. So what do? We want to take over a school that is so superior in its being able to run with little. And as a matter of fact, what they're trying to do is they're trying to starve us out. So the thing is to not fully fund it and let it go under. We take it over and we take all the credit. Who would want the credit of having the graduation ratio that they have? Who does listen on the high school level?
I'm confused by that, but I'm there was so much in there. But
on the high school level, how many times has Ellington had 10, 12 police cars show up because there's brawls and all of these things? I have a niece who's at another high school, and every single day there are police there due to fights and things of that nature. Shouldn't they require a compliance officer? What are we complying to? I don't think that we should not even entertain the thought of a compliance officer.
Absolutely. And again, if we talk about funding, how much money is the city putting into after school programs for extracurricular activities? That funding is part of what should be going to Duke Ellington because we're providing that. When I was a student at Duke Ellington, most days we didn't leave school until before 6:00 p.m. So when kids get out of school, that's idle time. And so Ellington is hitting every single mark.
I'm gonna let you raise a good point, and I'm Nicole. I'm gonna let you get it. You raise a good point. And so isn't Duke Ellington's fight with the council? Shouldn't the council be allocating more funds for schools, and that way you can get more funding for your school? Isn't that where your fight lies? Because DCPS doesn't allocate the funds
Yes.
for schools.
Speaking of DC Council,
I promise
Sure.
Nicole. I promise Nicole. Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, okay. So let's be clear. Let's put this on the table, just to go back to what Michael was saying. DCPS wants to take over Duke Ellington because the community wants that to be a feeder school for their kids. Point blank. That's all it is. They want that school to be a feeder school for their kids. Wilson is already crowded. They're already trying to place those students somewhere else. Where else can we put them? Duke. This is the issue. They've been trying to get Duke for years because that community wants that to be a feeder school for their kids, and they don't want our kids there. Period. That's what it is. And like you said, the mayor and the city council, they're playing into its politics with them.
Speaking of the mayor, I saw where the builder said himself, and you can see this on YouTube. The builder himself said that the mayor wanted Ellington relocated to 7th Street. Why? Why? And so we've been here for 49 years. Why is there a discussion about moving us to 7th Street?
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we've got 3 minutes left before we'll have to step aside. And so I want to hear briefly from each of you, because we have a motto at We Act Radio. Our motto is do something. So where do you go from here? What do you do from this point to get what you want for your school? And I'll start with you, Nicole, and we'll go around to Joyce. We only have 2 minutes.
Okay, so I guess we can do the same thing that New York did. We can do the same thing that Baltimore did. They got legislative funding for the school.
Okay.
To make sure that we don't have to keep addressing this budget issue, so we can keep this school running and prospering like it is, so our kids can thrive and become successful.
Okay. Joyce, I'm gonna hear your thoughts real quick, and I'm gonna rush y'all through this.
Open communication on DCPS's part. That will be very beneficial to the process. That's why I believe it.
Thank you. Tony?
Adopt the DSAT board's proposal, which is before the city council, to fund the school and run the school.
Okay. A letter?
Atia.
Atia. I can't get it. Writing is so small, I can't read it. Atia. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's Atia. And so I think that we should continue to do what we're doing. Continue to fight this at the grassroots level. We have Ms. Doreen, who's a parent and advocate. We have Amber, who's also an advocate. So keep fighting at the grassroots level and bring more and more attention to the struggle.
Okay. So I'm going to hear from one of the staff members real quick. Whoever's.
Yes. Hi, Thomas. This is Doreen Blue. How are you?
Doreen. How are you, Doreen?
I'm good. Thank you so much for hosting us today. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to just go ahead and add that we need to get also reparations. We need to ask for appropriate funding from Congresswoman Norton, who we're coming at her door next too. So I encourage you to stay on foot with us, because on February 13th, we're at the mayor's office. And on February 14th, we're going to be at the Capitol or wherever at the Rayburn building. So we're going to stay on that.
Okay. So, Michael, you got 10 seconds.
I just was going to say February 13th, February 14th. Don't meet me there. Beat me there.
Scott, you have 5 seconds.
Let's increase the public's awareness of what's happening. I'd like to gather some evidence about all the attempts from the neighbors to take this over. They're pushing into city council, and I'd like to sort of bring that out into the open so that the city itself can see that we've got a neighborhood here trying to do a hostile takeover of a school that serves kids from all over the city.
Well, I want to thank each of you for being here today on the Education Town Hall on We Act Radio. This has been a very engaging and enlightening, because you mentioned reparations. We didn't get a chance to get into that, but there's so much that we could talk about. We'll have to get back together. Consider yourselves friends of the show, and you're welcome to come back anytime we need to have further discussion. And so I want to say thank you to my technical director, Virginia Spatz, my associate producer, Valerie Jablo. This is your humble servant and host, Thomas Bird. Until we are together again, be good to somebody. Peace.
Thank you.